Okay, welcome back to another edition of the Penn State Breakdown with Adam Breneman. This guy over here, that would be Adam Breneman, former Penn State tight end, All-American at UMass. It's not every day I get to talk to an All-American. So Adam, welcome back to the show. It's actually your show. Penn State's getting ready to visit Illinois short week. But we want to talk about some big picture things. I think everyone kind of agrees that Penn State should win this game. But a couple of things that you saw through the first 3 weeks, and especially against Kent State, I think the fans would really kind of enjoy your perspective. One thing we wanted to talk about this week is you played with and for Joe Moorhead when you were at Penn State. He's now at Mississippi State. Ricky Rahne is now calling the shots as the OC up in the press box while Joe was on the field. What have you seen maybe different, or what do you like about what Ricky Rahne's doing? And can you kind of compare, contrast what he's doing with what Joe Moorhead tried to do at Penn State?
Yeah, you know, it's really the same offense. When you look at it from an X's and O's standpoint, it's a lot of the same schemes. You're seeing a lot of the same personnel groupings, the one tight end stuff, what we call 11 personnel in the game, one running back, one tight end. You know, and you're seeing a lot of similarities. You know, I think a few things that are different. Ricky Rahne kind of throws his wrinkles in there. From the jet sweep was something that we're seeing a little bit of that we didn't really see with Joe Moorhead. You know, and a lot of this stuff depends on personnel. You know, an offense changes, and that's what good offenses do. They aren't a set structure. They move around the kind of personnel, the kind of players you have. So we've seen a lot of the post routes being run. We saw Hamler catch one for a touchdown. He got called back. We saw the other one for the touchdown, and then Tompkins for the touchdown.
They had three called back.
So, you know, those are things that we didn't really see a lot of the post routes last year with Joe Moorhead. Again, that could be the speed in the slot position. They had Deshaun Hamilton last year playing that spot. Isn't the fastest guy in the world. Runs well enough, but, you know, now they have Hamler and Tompkins. So that's the one difference. I think the other part, and you mentioned, is the booth versus the sidelines debate. And that's something that, you know, I hear fans talk about a lot, and players have different opinions on it. You know, I've played for OCs that are in the booth and on the sidelines, and you know, I think there's pros and cons to both of them. You know, when you look at Moorhead has a head coaching background from when he was at Fordham, and is kind of used to being on the sidelines. And I think when you're on the sideline, you know, there's no doubt that calling the game from the booth is easier for an offensive coordinator. I think it's a lot easier to see the game. It's a lot easier to see different coverages and what a defense is doing. So for Moorhead to be on the sideline, or to be on the sideline, means that he has people in the booth that he trusts. So he had Ricky Rahne in the booth when he was on the sideline. And Ricky Rahne being in the booth maybe means that he doesn't have someone like that yet on that staff that really can be his eyes and ears up there, or he just has a first-year OC, wants to be able to see things for himself. So I think there's a lot of similarities and some differences with how they deal with each other. And you know, the negative part of being in the booth is not being able to interact with your quarterbacks. There's nothing like looking your quarterback in the eye on the sideline when you're getting ready to call a play. I mean, there's nothing like that connection. But you know, after every drive, we see Trace McSorley get on the phone and talk to Ricky Rahne. So I think, you know, Ricky Rahne's doing a great job. I think they're averaging 53 points a game right now after 3 games, almost 500 yards a game. So, I mean, for a first-year offensive coordinator, really impressive so far.
Just one quick follow-up with Ricky Rahne. Tommy Stevens has not played yet. I think they're getting ready to play him. He could possibly play against Illinois. I think definitely against Ohio State. When Ricky has him available, do you expect him to use him a little differently than maybe Joe did?
That's kind of the mystery right now. I don't even know if I have the answer to that as far as what Tommy Stevens' role will be at the lion position. So I think we'll see him get a few snaps at quarterback, at kind of the wildcat quarterback. You know, I think we'll see him and Trace in the game together. We'll see Tommy. I don't know. I don't think he will play tight end, which is kind of what I'm hearing a little bit. I don't think he'll actually play tight end. I think he'll get the ball thrown to him some. But I'm excited to see what they do with him, because there are really a million different things in that offense, and Ricky Rahne is going to be creative, and I know him and Tommy have a really good relationship, so that he's going to want to get Tommy some touches his first game back.
Now, Adam, when you were roaming the field for Penn State and at UMass and at Cedar Cliff, you kind of made a living of making linebackers and safeties look foolish. Penn State has a defensive back. Tried to. More often than not, you did. Penn State's got a corner that I think already has the attention of the NFL scouts. Amani Oruwariye, he had an interception in the first 2 games. What I think a lot of people notice is he can really track the ball. He really can run. He's got the speed and the length to run with some receivers. What have you seen from him? Do you remember anything about him from when you were at Penn State? What do you like about his game? And from your perspective as somebody who has to track the ball on offense, how hard is it for the defensive guy to be able to track the ball in the air when he's kind of running either backwards or on the side? Yeah,
well, Amani has the first thing you check off the box for a corner is his length. I mean, he has long arms. He's tall. He's rangy. And that's kind of the first thing for when you're looking for NFL corners. Right. They want tall guys with long arms, and Amani checks that off. I think he's probably one of the most improved players since we talk about guys who went in as freshmen and to now. I mean, he's went in as not a very big recruit and is probably one of the top corners in the country now. I think he's got a legit shot to be an NFL corner and have a long NFL career. But he's the kind of guy who is really good at tracking the ball in the air, makes a lot of big plays, and because he's so good at that, sometimes gets beat a couple times. I think we saw him last game, or was it against Pitt? One of the games, touchdown pass got called on him when he was trying to track the ball in the air. But then he comes back and makes those interceptions and those big time plays. So that's the kind of corner he is. He's a guy who's going to get interceptions. He tracks the ball really well. Has great ball skills. And as an offensive guy, that's what you don't want to see as a quarterback. Corners that have ball skills are always the ones you want to stay away from. So Amani has the ability to play, an X receiver. He has the ability to play in the slot and even play a tight end out of the slot. So he's a special player, and I think we're going to see him have a long NFL career.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to note that I think Penn State's trying to recruit corners with length. That's a priority. And there's almost another Amani in the making in Tariq Castro-Fields, who's just a second-year player, but played as a true freshman. It's tough to just go away from Amani when Tariq's on the other side, because I think he's starting to play very well as well. You mentioned Tommy Stevens earlier and how you don't think he may play a lot of tight end. Penn State's still trying to figure it out at your old position, the tight end position. Mike Gesicki obviously is with Miami, second-round pick. But as the season's gone on, I've been impressed. The tight end that's impressed me the most has been a true freshman, Pat Freiermuth from UMass. He's a pretty big kid. He's about 250 pounds. It looks like they're playing him more and more. What have you noticed about him, and do you think he may eventually be maybe their guy that replaces Gesicki?
Yeah, I think he will. I mean, Pat's a guy who has the size. He's huge. He's a little bit older for his grade. I think he's maybe 20 years old as a true freshman. So he kind of has that a little bit more of the physical maturity than some of the other freshmen that we're talking about. I tweeted during the game after his big catch. Was that Mike Gesicki or Pat? I couldn't tell who it was. He kind of reminds me of Mike. Maybe not as athletic as Mike per se, but really has great ball skills, can make those big-time plays. And we also saw a great play from Zach Kuntz, who got in for a little bit and got called back. But really athletic play by him. So I think that tight end position for Penn State, is really, really going to look up. And then we saw the freshman mistake from Pat with the pick play, which is kind of, I think every tight end in the world has gotten one of those called on them. You just got to find a way to avoid the defender. But and unfortunately called back a touchdown for Juwan, who probably could have used a touchdown.
He definitely needs a touchdown.
But yeah, I mean, Pat's, and I think, and I said this, I think it was the first episode that we did, if you can't block, you're a big, slow wide receiver. I think Pat's really a guy who embraces the physicalness of that position. Can put his nose into a defender and drive him off the ball, and then also can run routes and make big plays. So I think he's got a chance to be a really, really good player for Penn State. And hopefully, the more that he makes plays like that, the more he can gain the trust of the coaches. The more he's going to play, the more Trace will throw him the ball.
You talked about being a freshman tight end, and it wasn't easy when you played for Bill O'Brien. Mike Gesicki talked about he was maybe a little bit undersized, and James didn't really want to play him in 2014, but they kind of forced to. So is it surprising maybe that Pat, they do have other options, older options at tight end. Does it surprise you that he's kind of taken to this early, or do you think he's got kind of a ways to go yet to develop? Yeah,
I think anytime playing as a true freshman is hard. I mean, I've said that a million times. It's really hard, and even when you're older, I mean, it's an impressive thing for Pat to be able to do. He's clearly won the trust of the locker room and the trust of his coaches. So I think we'll see his role continue to increase. I think it's gonna have to. You know, John Holland's played pretty well. I think he's had a couple big catches for him. Danny Dalton's done pretty well here and there. Had a few catches so far. So right now it's kind of tight end by committee. I think ideally you'd like to find your one guy that you can stick with and ends up playing 50, 60 snaps a game.
Well, there's no better way to end a segment with Adam Breneman than talking about Penn State tight ends. So we're gonna wrap this one up. That's it for this edition of the Penn State Breakdown with Adam Breneman. Just remember, to all you fans out there, people want to watch these videos, you can go to youtube.com/allpennstate, or you can, just like I do, just go into the search thing and type in Penn State on PennLive. It's just as easy. That's it for this edition.